Have you ever really looked at one of those old-fashioned balance scales? You know, the ones with two pans? We see them all the time as a symbol of justice, or maybe just as a cool antique. But what if I told you that this simple-looking object is actually a super sophisticated piece of social technology? One that was designed not just to weigh things, but to build something way more important: trust. Let's dig into how it did that.
So this is it, the equal arm balance. For hundreds of years in markets all over the world, this was the silent judge of what was fair. It's a really elegant machine, for sure. But its real genius isn't just in the way it's built, it's in its whole philosophy. And this is the core idea of our whole explainer. This thing wasn't just built to be accurate, it was engineered to literally create a social virtue. How? By making the whole act of weighing something totally transparent, public, and pretty much impossible to argue with. Let's see how every single piece was designed to pull that off.
Okay, so to really get the trust part, we first have to get the tool itself. We're going to break this thing down piece by piece to see how every single component was designed to make fairness visible. Now, we are talking specifically about the equal arm balance. This is the oldest, purest form of weighing. This isn't like a modern spring scale or one of those steel yards with a weight that slides around. Nope. Its entire purpose is based on a visible, physical tie. It's basically a statement of equality, made real right in front of your eyes. Right at its heart, you've got the beam and the fulcrum. The beam, or trave, had to be perfectly balanced and symmetrical. And the fulcrum? It wasn't just some pivot point. It was a razor-sharp edge of hardened steel, designed to reduce friction to almost nothing. And that made the whole thing incredibly sensitive. It could react to the absolute tiniest difference in weight. And then there's the suspension system. Everything had to be perfectly identical. The chains, the pans, the piatti. But honestly, the real star of the show here is that little vertical pointer, the indicator, or augo. That little pointer is the key to everything. It's the visual proof that everyone can see. You see, that simple little pointer turns the whole process into an open book. There are no hidden gears, no secret springs you can't see. The buyer and the seller both stand there and watch that pointer tremble and then settle. They literally witness fairness happening together. The honesty is built right into the machine.
So how does this clever machine actually become part of a public ritual? Well, let's zoom out from the object itself and drop into the noisy, bustling, open-air markets of Puglia in southern Italy to see this thing in action.
So the scale didn't work alone. It was really only one half of a whole system. The other half was a set of standardized weights, just like these. They were usually made of super dense lead, and this is crucial, they were stamped with official seals from the local government. This meant the standard of measurement itself was certified as trustworthy by a public authority. And this brings us to the actual performance. Weighing something wasn't a quick rush transaction. It was like a slow, deliberate dance. You can just picture it, right? The goods go on one pan. The certified weights are added one by one to the other. And then you get to that critical moment. The beam starts to tremble. It goes back and forth, before finally, slowly, settling into a perfect, still line. That stillness wasn't just a measurement. It was a public verdict. It was a shared agreement. But here's where it gets really interesting. This model of visible communal trust, well, it wasn't the only way to do things. If we look across different cultures, we can actually see that different kinds of weighing tools reveal totally different ideas about what it even means to be fair. This slide just lays it all out so perfectly. In Puglia, like we saw, trust was all about what you could see together. It was visual and communal. But in the Ottoman world, you'd more likely see a steel yard, which has a sliding weight. There, trust was placed in the speed and skill of the person using it. And then, up in Northern Europe, trust became institutional. It relied on super precise government-certified instruments. So you have 3 different tools for 3 completely different philosophies of fairness. So you end up with 2 totally different ideas of what trust is. One version is rooted in what the community can literally see happen together, right there in the moment. The other is rooted in a more abstract kind of faith. Faith in a central authority, like the state or a guild, that guarantees an instrument is accurate long before it ever gets used. So, what happened? Why don't we see these elegant machines in our grocery stores today? Well, the answer, in a single word, is efficiency. The world became obsessed with speed, and that changed everything. You can just follow the progression through the 20th century. First came the spring scale, which was faster, then the dial scale, which was even quicker to read, and finally the electronic scale, which gives us an instant number. With every single step, the process got faster, sure, but it also got more and more hidden until we ended up with the complete black box that we all use today.
And this contrast just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you have a system where the process is the proof. You see the balance happen. On the right, you've got a system where you just have to trust the number that pops up on a screen. We traded that shared ritual of verification for pure, silent speed.
And so today, the balance scale is basically retired from the marketplace. It lives on as a museum piece or a collector's item, but think about what it symbolizes: justice, equivalence, equilibrium, transparency. Isn't it wild that even after the tool vanished from our daily lives, we held on so tightly to the powerful ideas that it represented?
This just captures the whole soul of the device perfectly. That moment where the beam settles into stillness, that wasn't just about physics and gravity. It was a physical metaphor for social harmony, for two people finding a point of agreement and fairness. It was a tiny piece of social order being created right there in the middle of a noisy market.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important thought. Okay, so we don't weigh our food on a balance scale anymore, but we do conduct countless transactions every single day through digital black boxes, algorithms, apps, systems that we can't see inside of. This old piece of technology teaches us that trust was once something you could see with your own two eyes. And so the question it leaves us with is this: in a world full of black boxes, how do we make trust visible again?